Shalom, and welcome to Bible Stories as Blueprints of the Soul, your Biblical Hebrew podcast. Shalom, and welcome to our Biblical Hebrew podcast. Today we shall tell another story about Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great was coming to his homeland after visiting the king of Katia, he was hungry. So he took a piece of bread of his pocket and ate it and sat next to a spring of water and drank water. Then he touched his pocket and he found there salty fishes. So he took them out of his pocket and he dipped them in the water of the spring. But before he ate them, he noticed that they smell so good, unlike fish smell. So Alexander thought to himself, this is interesting. If this is what the water can turn those fishes into, I shall follow up the stream and see where does it lead me. And so he did. He followed up the stream and he reached the gates of heaven. "Open up for me." And a voice from heaven answered, "Ze hasha'ar le'Hashem, tzadikim yavo bo." This is the gate of the name, the righteous one will come into it. "Open up for me. I'm Alexander the Great," said Alexander. "Give me something." The door of heaven opened and a skull was given to him. Alexander took the skull and went back to his country. When he came back to his country, he put the skull on a scale, and on the other hand of the scale, he put all the gold and the silver and the good stone that he had in his kingdom. But the skull was still heavier. "What is it?" asked Alexander the sages of his country. The sages answered, "This is the nature mode of the flesh and blood. I always want more." "So what to do?" said Alexander. "Well," said the sages, "take a handful of ashes and put it on the eye of the skull and see what happens." And Alexander did. He took a handful of ashes and put on the eyes of the skull, and they were closed. And suddenly all the gold and the silver and the beautiful stones were heavier than the skull. So far, this is the story. But what does the story mean? What does a fish symbolize? What does the river, what does the stream symbolize? What does the gate of heaven or the heaven symbolize? What does the skull and the ashes? Let's talk about those motifs one by one. The fish, in Hebrew, dag. Dag is written in two letters, Daled, Gimel. Daled is 4, Gimel is 3, together is 7. Once when Alexander dipped the fish, the salty fish, in the water, what usually happens is the fish has a smell of a fish. But when he dipped those fishes in the water, and the water is a symbol for the river of time or for multiplicity, this stream was different. When he dipped the fish inside, suddenly the fish did not behave like its nature. It was smelling good. Something abnormal is going on. This is not how nature behaves. So Alexander asked himself, if the fish does not smell like a fish after dipping it into those waters, so something is good coming from it, let's follow it. And then he reaches the Garden of Eden, meaning the water which are coming from the Garden of Eden are not like the worldly water. it's something else. It turns something into good. A good smell from a fish is something not according to the nature. And this is what the water of the Garden of Eden is capable of. So he followed up the stream and he reached the Garden of Eden and he demanded to go inside. And there was a reply. Ze hasha'ar leHashem. This is the gate of the name, meaning only people who want to learn the meaning of names can come inside. This is why the righteous one will come, those who want to know the name. This is the only condition to enter the garden. So he asked, give me something, I'm Alexander the Great. And the answer was a skull, a human skull was handed to him from the gate. And he thought it's a treasure, so he hugged it and went back to his homeland. And then he thought the skull has a lot of value because it was a present from the heavens, from the Garden of Eden. So he put it on a scale to see its real value. Innocently put it on one side of the scale. Listen also to the relations of the sound between skull and scale. Interesting to think of. So on one side of the scale, he put the skull, a human skull. On the other hand, he put all the gold and the silver, beautiful stone that he had in his country, and still the skull was heavier. So he could not understand. And the sages that were standing next to him told him, and this is the hint, human, as long as their eyes are open, they want more and more. Once the wheel of the eye, of the human eye, is covered with ashes, and this is a hint of a situation when people already sleeping in their graves, this unsatisfied will is over. And this is why after Alexander took a handful of ashes and covered the skull was not heavier anymore, or the heaviest, because there is no urge for more and more and more and more to crave inside. The person is in the ashes, and his ambitions and desires, everything is covered. There is peace. So this was our little conversation about Alexander the Great and his visit to the Garden of Eden. We wish you a beautiful day and wonderful week. Thank you for listening to Bible Stories as Blueprints of the Soul. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to hear more about a certain topic, just write us an email to hebrew@learnoutlive.com. We are always happy to hear from you. For more episodes, videos, and articles like this, please visit our website at hebrew.learnoutlive.com. We also would like to invite you to join our live classes. Just search for Online College of Biblical Hebrew on Facebook and start learning now with students from all over the world. Koltuv and Shalom.